Hello, Virgo. Mm, you've been feeling weird friction around your finances lately, haven't you? Not the familiar grinding poverty you know how to navigate, but something different. Like there's pressure building in your financial pipes, like something's warming up that's been frozen for so long you forgot what fluid cash flow even feels like. And you're not sure whether to trust this shift or whether you're just hallucinating relief because you're so desperate for things to finally change after endless stagnation where every dollar felt like it was moving through. Concrete. Let me decode what's generating heat in the economic atmosphere surrounding you right now. The first thing registering isn't full explosion yet, it's preliminary warming. You're probably noticing small, weird money things happening that don't make logical sense given your recent history. Unexpected refund appearing, someone paying you back money you'd written off, finding cash you forgot about, bill being less than you budgeted for. You might be dismissing these as random coincidences. But what if they're not random? What if they're early signals that your financial frequency is shifting? That universe is sending scouts before the main battalion arrives, testing whether you're paying attention to good news when it's still quiet instead of waiting for it to be loud enough to overcome your cynicism. Here's what you're actually tracking in your tangible situation: temperature change without fire yet. You're probably experiencing conversations about money that feel different, job interview that went surprisingly well, client expressing interest in bigger project, someone mentioning opportunity they want to loop you into is less than hash zero. 5 hash is greater than none of it confirmed, none of it deposited, all of it still in nebulous future tense. You might be trying not to get your hopes up because you've been burned before by things that seemed promising and evaporated. But you're also noticing you can't quite maintain your usual pessimism because the evidence of shifting energy is too consistent to completely ignore, even though it's not yet substantial enough to trust. What's generating friction in the monetary mechanisms is your own resistance to believing improvement is actually possible. You're probably catching yourself in this exhausting cycle moment of excitement about potential money shift, immediately followed by a voice that says, "Don't be stupid, nothing ever works out for you." Then feeling guilty for being negative, which makes you try to force optimism, which feels fake, which makes you swing back to protective cynicism. You might be recognizing that this internal war is actually draining more energy than your external financial situation. That your relationship with money is so traumatized that you can't even receive good signals without immediately sabotaging them through disbelief. And healing that internal thermostat might be the actual work that determines whether warming trend you're sensing turns into sustainable heat or just flickers out. This reflection demands you examine how much of your financial struggle is actual external circumstance versus internal conviction that you're the kind of person money doesn't flow to, and whether you're willing to risk looking stupid by hoping for something better, or whether protecting yourself from disappointment is more important than being available for actual opportunity. You're probably noticing increased financial awareness generally. You might be experiencing yourself paying more attention to money, reading articles about investing, watching videos about side hustles, having conversations about income strategies, not because you consciously decided to focus on wealth, but because something in you is naturally orienting toward financial improvement. You could be tracking this as preparation phase, where your subconscious knows opportunity is approaching and is getting you educated before it arrives so you don't fumble it through ignorance, and trusting that this sudden interest in financial literacy is purposeful rather than random distraction helps you lean into learning instead of dismissing it as procrastination. What's also warming is specific avenue you haven't been taking seriously. You're probably sitting on some skill, knowledge, network, or asset that you've been undervaluing something you do casually that other people would pay for, connection you have that could open doors, thing you own that's appreciated in value. And you're starting to see that dormant resource differently. You might be having those, wait, I could actually monetize this realizations, where stuff that's been invisible background of your life suddenly reveals itself as a potential income stream. If you just take it seriously enough to actually pursue it instead of assuming it's not valuable because it comes easily to you. What's particularly interesting about what I'm tracking is you're heating up in other people's awareness financially. You're probably being talked about or thought about in contexts related to money, someone considering you for position, someone planning to refer business your way, someone remembering they owe you favor that could translate to opportunity. And while you can't see those conversations happening, you might be picking up energetic residue of being discussed in financial terms. You could be experiencing sudden contact from people you haven't heard from in a while, invitations to events or groups where deals happen. All of it creating this sense that your social positioning around money is shifting even before your actual bank account reflects it. Um, you're probably experiencing temptation to force the process. You might be noticing yourself getting impatient with heating phase, wanting to skip directly to money actually landing, considering desperate moves to speed things up, taking job you know is wrong because at least it's money now, versus waiting for right opportunity that hasn't materialized yet. You could be battling this tension between trusting timing and feeling like you can't afford to wait. And learning to discern between strategic patience and passive resignation is a crucial skill, because sometimes waiting is wisdom and sometimes it's just fear disguised as prudence. What's threading through the warming patterns is you're being asked to act before you feel ready. You're probably going to face opportunity that shows up before you're qualified, before you're confident, before you've done all the preparation you think you need. And the heating up is partly about you deciding whether you're brave enough to say yes to things that scare you. You might be recognizing that poverty thinking waits until everything is perfect, which means you never move, while wealth thinking takes calculated risks and figures shit out in motion. And adopting that second approach requires you to tolerate discomfort of being underprepared, which feels irresponsible when you've been living paycheck to paycheck, where mistakes have real consequences. This reflection demands you examine whether you're using "I'm not ready yet" as legitimate assessment or as convenient excuse to avoid risk, and what evidence would actually convince you that you're ready versus whether ready is just movable goalpost that ensures you never have to try and potentially fail. You're probably noticing spending patterns shifting even before income increases. You might be experiencing yourself making slightly different choices, buying better quality of something instead of cheapest option, investing in course or tool instead of trying to DIY everything, saying yes to social opportunity that costs money because you're valuing connection over saving $20. And these micro shifts in how you relate to spending are actually evidence of internal thermostat adjusting. You could be practicing abundance mindset in small ways that don't break you financially, but do challenge your scarcity programming. And recognizing that how you behave with little money is exactly how you'll behave with big money means these small choices are actually training ground for being able to hold wealth when it arrives. What's also heating up is clarity about what you actually want money for. You're probably moving past generic, "I want to be rich" into specific vision, want to travel to specific place, want to start specific business, want to support specific people or causes, want to buy specific house or car. And that specificity is crucial because vague desires generate vague results. You might be creating vision boards, writing detailed descriptions, calculating exact numbers, all of which is focusing your energy toward concrete target instead of diffuse wishing, and that concentrated intention is part of what's creating heat because universe responds to clarity with matching clarity. The warming signatures suggest you're experiencing this across multiple financial domains simultaneously. You're probably noticing potential movement in employment situation and in side hustle and in unexpected windfall possibilities. Not just one channel heating up, but several at once, which creates this overwhelming sense of too much is happening. You might be struggling to track and respond to all the different warming trends, which is a good problem to have compared to nothing moving anywhere. But it's still legitimately challenging to manage multiple possibilities without dropping balls or missing opportunities because you're not used to juggling this much potential. What's significant is you're approaching decision point about whether to tell people what's warming up. You're probably debating whether to share your financial optimism, telling friends about opportunity you're pursuing, posting about your business on social media, asking for support or referrals is less than #0, 5 hashes greater than, or whether to keep everything quiet until money is actually in hand because you're superstitious about jinxing it. You could be weighing vulnerability of being public about hope versus strategic value of letting people know you're available for opportunities, and making that choice based on your actual needs rather than on fear is mature navigation of tension between privacy and leverage. This reflection demands you examine whether your silence about financial aspirations is protecting sacred process or just protecting you from having to face people if things don't work out, and whether that protection is worth the cost of missing support and opportunities that only come through people knowing what you're trying to create. You're probably experiencing increased financial education happening organically. You might be absorbing information about money management, investment strategies, tax optimization through conversations, through content that randomly appears in your feed, through books or podcasts you're suddenly drawn to. You could be recognizing this as universe preparing you for having money to manage, giving you knowledge before you need it so you're not completely ignorant when resources arrive, and being receptive to that education instead of dismissing it as irrelevant because you're still broke is choosing to prepare for success instead of staying stuck in poverty consciousness. What I'm witnessing in the thermal patterns is your financial situation is warming but hasn't combusted yet. You're probably in this uncomfortable in between phase where old struggles haven't ended but new possibilities haven't fully materialized is less than #0. 5 hashes greater than, which means you're managing both stress of not having enough and stress of trying to position for breakthrough. You might be stretched thin trying to maintain survival mode while also investing energy in growth mode. And that double burden is exhausting but also temporary because once warming hits critical mass and ignites into actual money flow, survival mode becomes obsolete and all your energy can redirect to optimization instead of desperation. The heat generation suggests you're doing something right that you might not be giving yourself credit for. You're probably making choices that seem small but are actually significant, showing up consistently, delivering quality even when underpaid, building reputation, developing skills, maintaining integrity when it would be easier to cut corners. And those invisible deposits into your credibility account are what's creating conditions for warming to accelerate into fire. You could be recognizing that overnight success you're approaching is actually result of years of preparation, and honoring your own persistence instead of minimizing. It helps you receive coming abundance as earned rather than as luck, which is crucial for actually keeping money instead of unconsciously repelling it. What's also generating warmth is your increased comfort with wanting money. You're probably releasing some shame about desiring wealth, getting over messaging that wanting money is greedy or shallow, accepting that financial security is legitimate need, not character flaw, and giving yourself permission to actually pursue income instead of just hoping it finds you. You might be having internal conversations where you defend your right to want comfort, to want choices, to want freedom that money provides. And that internal permission is prerequisite for external money to flow, because if you're ambivalent about wanting it, your energy sends mixed signals that create exactly the ambiguous results you've been experiencing. This reflection demands you examine what you're still apologizing for about wanting financial abundance, and whether those apologies are based on authentic values or on internalized poverty programming that keeps you small by making desire itself feel like sin. So, as you feel things heating up around your money without yet seeing dramatic results, trust the warming phase. You're probably impatient for fire, but temperature has to rise before combustion happens. And trying to force ignition before conditions are ready just wastes energy. Keep doing what's working. Keep positioning yourself. Keep developing skills and relationships and reputation, and trust that when critical mass is reached, transformation from warm to blazing will happen faster than you can track. Watch what's heating up. Pay attention to which opportunities feel warmest, which conversations generate most energy, which actions create most momentum. Those hot spots are telling you where to focus, where to invest your limited time and resources for maximum return, and following heat instead of following what you think you should be doing is choosing alignment over obligation. Your money is heating up, not metaphorically, actually. You're probably already feeling it in small ways that are easy to dismiss but are actually harbingers. And your job isn't to force fire before fuel is ready, but to keep adding kindling, to keep creating conditions for combustion, to keep believing heat is real even when people around you can't feel it yet. Trust the warming. It's building towards something. Watch it, tend it, let it grow. The fire is coming. You're just in the essential heating phase that makes sustainable burn possible instead of flash that consumes everything and dies. Be patient with the heat. It's working.